year ago, I was lucky enough to be joined by Corrie actress Shelley King, who spoke to me about the beginnings of the coercive control storyline between Yasmeen and Jeff. Now, a lot's happened since then, and following this week's dramatic developments, I thought it was the perfect opportunity to invite Shelley back onto the show to talk to me about Yasmeen's struggle to escape from Jeff's grasp. Earlier this week, we arranged a video chat online, and here's what she had to say. Hello, Shelley, how are you?
I'm very good. Please forgive my déshabille because I'm in lockdown mode.
Oh, don't worry. We all are. Don't worry about it. So first off, congratulations on your TV Choice nomination for Best Actress. You must be thrilled with that.
I am. I'm really thrilled for the whole team because I think it's been a 2-year journey and everybody has been so dedicated, worked so hard, and people who have shared stories with us have been so courageous, and Women's Aid and all the various organisations that have helped us along the way to be as truthful as we possibly can be.
Yeah.
So I'm really chuffed for all of us and for Corrie for getting a Best nomination, and I'm a bit upset that Barty isn't there with me because as far as I'm concerned, I mean, this is for both of us because you don't do something like this on your own. It needs two people to work together. But, people are people, he's a villain, and I guess that's what, people find it silly people.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that you and he have kind of been the face of Coronation Street this year for its 60th anniversary year. You must be pretty proud of that.
Very, very proud. Very proud. I mean, it's such an iconic program, and I can't tell you how interesting the last 2 years of my life have been as an actor, or in television, and I've really enjoyed is perhaps not the right word, but I've been certainly completely taken over by this particular subject, and I think that's and to see how much it's helping people, it's fantastic. I'm really proud. What can I say? And I'm Barty. It's now because we're not together anymore.
Yeah.
Doing at the moment.
Yeah.
But hopefully something will happen something more will happen as soon as we can get on with the story as planned. So.
Did you always kind of have an idea that this story would capture the viewer's interest so much?
No. I mean, I started to discuss various possibilities for Yasmeen so that we could explore her history. Because as a secular Muslim woman in Coronation Street, it was the first Muslim family. You had a husband who was deeply religious. You have a wife who's obviously very well educated. We had to make her that way because she was head of a library in the 1970s, and you had to have a British degree in order to do that, and blah blah blah. And so the sort of incongruities. But I think what I wanted to do was establish her, and so Kate Olsen and I started to think of ways in which to do this, and she had explored coercive relationships in the Archers.
Yeah.
And I thought, my God, her husband's left her. She's only had one son, Yasmeen, everything goes, her relationship with men and her father. So this is a great opportunity to explore Yasmeen as well as the nature of the abuse, because I read a book and it seemed to me that Yasmeen was right for this sort of thing, because an ostensibly strong woman, but had a very difficult relationship with men in her life, seemed to display great strength, but actually really wanted someone to love, to take care of.
Yeah.
And that's something that happens to a lot of women and men, because it does happen to men as well, that we've talked to, that abusers are often attracted to ostensibly strong people, because they themselves are inadequate in some way. That's why they control.
Yeah, I remember you said when we spoke a year ago that what was really important to you was that the character of Yasmeen felt real throughout the whole of this.
Yeah.
And I think she certainly still is. Have you been have you believed in everything that Yasmeen's done? Do you think we've kept that realism that you wanted?
Yes, I absolutely. This is why I think the script writers, the script editors, Ian Bartholomew, the producer, and his wife Verity, who is his assistant producer. I think everybody's worked so hard just to do that. And to work at it for 2 years is a very unsoap-like thing to do.
Yeah,
to
totally.
Gradually drip in, and because some of these relationships have lasted, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
People, and to be honest, I think some viewers didn't understand it. It's latterly, as the story picks up momentum, or seems to pick up momentum, that people go, oh my God, and learn more about the nature of the abuse itself. They go, I see what you were trying to do now, and that's true. But hey, you've got to be courageous in order to, because there are women and men out there who are courageous. You owe them a duty of care.
Absolutely.
So that's the way it really.
Yeah. I mean, talking about the length of it, there's been times throughout this story that I've felt a bit frustrated, not in a bad way, in a good way, because they want the viewers to be screaming at the TV, but where Yasmeen's almost been there, just been recognising that something's not quite right here, and then you think, oh, she's seen him for what he really is then, and then she goes back again, doesn't she? She's not quite ready to take the plunge.
But that's also the nature of it, because you think, how can this woman do it? But then, because she seems in her life to have made so many bad decisions, she doubts the fact that she's making a good one this time. She says, well, maybe I am an alcoholic. Maybe because I did this for Sharif and I'm not used, and I gave up drinking so I'm enjoying it so much that I'm overdoing it.
Yeah.
Maybe it was my son. Maybe I didn't protect my son enough. When Sharif wanted him to marry someone, perhaps that wasn't right for him, and maybe he shouldn't have joined the army, because then maybe then his wife wouldn't have died, because all these things. I've driven Zidane away from the house. I should have protected him. I supported Rana too much against him, and otherwise he would be with me. But then I had to all these questions, and we let us not forget that at the beginning we had quite a comic relationship, me and Jeff. I mean, Barty and I used to enjoy it. We sort of were. He's probably too young, but there was a comedy duo with June Whitfield and what's his name, Terry and June. It used to be called. Couple. And we were more Terry and June. Suddenly, I'm not with Terry. I'm with Brady. Oh God.
Well, I just hope that you and Barty haven't given that 14-year-old his sense of humour back, because it feels like you need it at the moment.
No, it's wonderful, because every time, if I don't answer his calls, if I miss his call, like if I've forgotten to call him, like I've just forgotten he'll ring me and he'll go, and I know it's him, because it's Barty.
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything, and that's it. No. So we still have that 14-year-old in shackles. He's round. We've got going anywhere.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about Yasmeen's friends, because there's Eileen, there's Sally, there's Kathy. There's so many characters that have throughout this story been almost piecing together what's been happening, but not quite there. I almost feel that if only they'd get their heads together a little bit, they might be able to figure it out.
Well, maybe they will. I mean, we're particularly trying to get Sally on board.
Yes.
Because I think Sally and Kathy are the closest, and in a way, Eileen has made the connections. Eileen and apart from, I think they had a ride on the bus at one point when they all went for a day out.
Yeah.
And that is where Eileen has gotten her information. And Yasmeen and Eileen haven't really had a friendship.
No, that's true.
They share is a relationship with a maniac. So she is able to look at things and think, well, I recognize that bit of behavior. Kathy sees it, but Brian dissuades her, because and Kathy and Kathy is the only person who has seen Jeff lose his cool.
That's true.
The only person who, because he didn't know she was there. So she's got that in her head, but she also, like so many others, sees the other Jeff.
Yeah.
You know, he's hail fellow, well met. Some reason Brian, I don't know why, Brian seems to trust him, even though, let's remember Runner Bean Gate.
I remember that, yeah.
But maybe he will piece that together slowly. And Sally and Yasmeen had, although they were this sort of, they're very much alike, Sally and Yasmeen. I mean, and that comedy used to come from, because they were both full of bluster and opinion.
Yeah.
And that's where the comedy came from. But then there was a time when there was an episode where they both sat down and talked to each other, which was a lovely moment that Sal Dinova and I really liked to play and work with. So they recognized the similarity in their relationships and how they needed somebody to be with, and they opened up to each other. So there is a bond that Sally has with Yasmeen that sort of looks through Jeff, and also because she's lived with Jeff, she's noticed things about him. You know, she's instinctive. She knows that Yasmeen. No, this is not the Yasmeen I know. Yeah. You know, she has certain beliefs. She has rigid, not rigid, but she has very definite ideas of truth and propriety, and it's unlike her to do. You know?
I think Jeff's been taken a bit aback by Sally as well, because he's been able to control not just Yasmeen, but a few other people that have started to be a bit suspicious. But Sally's not having any of it, is she? And when he tried to, I can't remember what he said a few weeks ago to her to try and make her think one thing, but she was like, "No, I'm not having any of this. I know what you're like."
Yeah. You see, I'm like you, because I've not been in much. I only get the episodes I'm in.
Yeah.
So I'm just watching what I can see on the screen to keep me. So I think there's going to be a lot more with Sam's investigation of the situation during my months to keep the storyline going.
Yeah.
I think Sally and Kathy and Eileen are Yasmeen's hope, really.
Yeah. Do you think that it's going to take Yasmeen a long time to recover from this ordeal?
I think it's going to take the rest of her life to recover for this ordeal.
You don't think she's going to spring back to how she originally was? I mean, would you be interested in exploring the recovery once it's over?
Yes. Yes, of course. I would very much like to become. I would very much like to explore some comedy in my life, and Yasmeen. I think that will always rear its ugly head. But ugly head, its wonderful head. In her head, there will always be the ugly memory of what has happened. So we will see. Hopefully, we will explore in truth and reality, the journey of a woman who has suffered the things that Yaz has suffered, not only now but in the past. But you can't take the chutzpah out of a girl. She's still got it, and she still argues. She can still be argumentative, and she's still opinionated. I think that will return gradually, but she will also become affected. Perhaps she'll be much more open to. She is pretty tolerant in her own way. But anyway, let's see. Look. Everything is written. Nothing is written in stone, and let's just see where Yasmeen goes. As long as we're truthful to the memory of this, because it wouldn't be fair to people who have suffered, met women, and sometimes, I have thought, my God, how are you as sane as you appear to be when you're telling me these things?
Yeah.
So, but sometimes it's the recognition of that can open up a whole new vista or new period of your life, something that you've been avoiding, and a confidence in yourself that you've never had before. So,
and what about Jeff? Because when it comes to soap baddies, they usually get thrown in prison, killed off. I mean, there's usually the two options, aren't they? What do you reckon? What would you prefer for Jeff? What does he deserve?
Well, I'll keep the bed warm for him in prison. It's prison, unfortunately. Anyway, although yes, yes, I won't. I was going to say something which I can't tell you. But never mind. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I don't know how quite it's going to end. I really don't know. I know there have been at least three options that I'm aware of. I don't know which one will be chosen, and all dependent on time and opportunity and COVID-19.
Yeah, of course. It seems to me that public shaming would be Jeff's, his kryptonite. The whole Jiggle It Jeff thing, where everybody's making fun of him. I can see him being kicked out of Weatherfield, head hanging in shame, maybe. But is that enough? I don't know.
I don't. Is it enough? I don't know. Is it enough in this world where only 1 out of 70 men are convicted of rape or rape cases, whether that's men or women? So I don't know. I think Coronation Street informs and gives hope. I think that's historically what Coronation Street does, and I think the writers will try and pursue that same recipe, because you've got to give people hope, whether it is to I don't know how that will I can't really tell you. I mean, I don't know. There are several options, but I think it will be a learning curve and an informative curve for people to identify and learn things.
We spoke earlier about this being kind of one of the biggest stories this year for the 60th, and it's odd because usually the big stories have got, the big explosions, the stunts, all of that kind of thing, but this has been so character driven. It's been wonderful, but there have been still a couple of scenes that I just wanted to talk about a bit that I really enjoyed. The magic box scene and the stabbing scene. So the magic box first, I think that was visually quite striking, partly because of Matt Hilton's direction. What do you remember about filming that?
Is always so inventive with what he's got, in both scenes, what you see takes a great deal longer to film. So you're talking about, for each of those scenes, maybe a whole day, a day and a half.
Wow.
Start in 2 days, because you have various different cameras involved, as you can see in the eyes there, you then have to really keep your eye on continuity. Or everybody has to be on the ball. Cameraman, makeup, everybody has to be. The props, everybody has to be on the ball, so that you can pick up exactly where you've left off after a tea break, after whatever.
Yeah.
So very, very intense. But they're to be honest, they are difficult to do, but great to watch. And you have to say it in your head, okay, we are all in this together, and we might have been up since 6:30, and it might be coming up to 8 o'clock, but we're all in this. We've got to carry on, and we might have a bit of a bad temper in between, or have a bit, feel tired, but you've got to just bear with it, because look, I think those scenes are fantastic, and because both Di and Matt and all the camera people involved, everybody came up with such extraordinarily inventive work and portrayals of what was happening. Exciting. It was like watching a movie. Yeah,
I mean the magic box scene, I think people might be surprised how long it would take to film, because it was all filmed to make it look like it was one long shot, wasn't it? With the camera swirling around the box and everything, but that still must have taken a long time. Clever places to stop the camera and start again.
And the way the box was constructed, the way I was in there, and that was continued in the scene, in some scenes later when he locked her in the box. That also was very interesting, because you got into the box and how that was lit. Obviously, I'm not in a box, but you have to see it from all angles, so it is in the, one is in the box, and I'm just proud. I'm over the moon that I was involved, and that this storyline, I was be a part of it.
Yeah, it still must be quite physically and mentally exhausting for you to do some of those scenes as well, though.
Yeah, no, it was, particularly, as we got increasingly into the relationship that became more and more. I mean, Jeff became more and more misogynistic, sadistic. He really started to enjoy it. So I think those scenes were very difficult, both for Ian and for myself, because you have to get under the skin of yourself, the character, and something in you in order to play it truthfully.
Yeah.
And you really do. And sometimes the little 14-year-old boy had to be locked outside in order to keep that atmosphere going. But he came back as soon as it was finished. Well, yeah. maybe about 5. I didn't drink after, but yeah, sometimes, and on those occasions, the 14-year-old boy has to be controlled.
There's even a few bits of dark humour in there as well. I mean, the chicken scene was horrendous, but to have you have said, "You killed Charlotte Bronte," there must have been a bit of humour in that as well. Yeah, I mean, oh my God, and I thought, how am I going to keep... In fact, we were just in Suffolk, and I bought some eggs from a woman. Yeah. And they were great eggs, actually. But I saw her looking at me, and I thought, yes. These remind me of Charlotte. No, and I thought, no, she's taking it seriously. I can't. No. Brilliant. Oh, how I miss Charlotte. Yeah, they are. And Corrie has got lots of that. It's sort of grand guignol, dark humour. That's what makes it fantastic. Yeah. And it is spectacular. He is spectacular. Jeff is charismatic. And that's fantastic, isn't it? Yeah. That's the problem. If he wasn't, you think, But he is. And that's why people find he's charming and dangerous and funny. And he that's why, because he's, the character is I mean, he's not Rock Hudson, is he? Let's face it. But he can charm women. He charms everybody. Yeah. I mean, I think he will continue to charm people while he can, until whatever happens to him happens. That's why it becomes. And I know you say some people have begun to have their suspicions, but most people haven't. Most people haven't. Yeah. That big Corrie Street brigadoon that happens now only 3 times a week and exists in the world. But it does. The personalities, the stories exist somewhere in our lives, although our lives changed. Listen, by the time this interview goes out, we'll have had, I think, Jeff's ex-wife will have turned up on the scene. Yasmeen will have had a heart attack. It feels like there's still quite a lot of excitement to come for it.
I don't know. Yas will have had a heart attack, and then the rigors of COVID, because then we'll start. I mean, everything you're seeing now, including obviously Paula coming in as Elaine, the ex-wife. That was all done before lockdown, before the 23rd. Yeah. And I think then, for me, the first thing was the heart attack that was done after, and then because of the strictures of COVID, that story will then not be front and center. That there are other wonderful stories, that Leanne's journey and Sally Carmen's journey, and all those Mike's and Charlie's with Georgia. So there are other stories that also should not by any means be forgotten, and they're given a chance to breathe while we have to be real and think what it's like in prison for a woman alone, but not beat you over the head with it, because Well, I'm not seeing very many people complaining that it's going on for so long, to be honest. I think on the whole, the viewers understand that this needs to have time to be real. Yeah. So good. I'm, as I said, I'm just missing getting on with work. That's all. I've had enough time at home. really.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today for an interview. It's been lovely catching up with you again.
Oh, thank
And
you.
wish you all the best for the future and as the story goes on.